Okay? You might as well have just dropped your pants and laid a turd right on Mr. Venezuela's head. Oh, you think it's funny, huh?
Mr. Mackey, we got him.
Huh?
Mr. Mackey, we got him.
Huh?
Mr. Mackey, we got him.
So when you crapped in that urinal, okay, you might as well have just dropped your pants and laid a turd right on Mr. Venezuela's head.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. That was South Park from last year. Mr. Venezuela, we got him. Now, before we get into the decode today, there's a lot going on in the world, isn't there? And we're going to spend about 10 minutes going over some of the highlights of this crazy matrix that we're in. Some of you believe that it's possible that Maduro simply gave himself up and that all of these antics are just fear tactics and chest beating to make it look like we made it look so easy. And I would not disagree with the possibility of that happening. I'm glad that we covered Venezuela yesterday, but psychological operations are afoot to make you believe that the Venezuelan people wanted this. Video after video of people cheering, except nobody can tell me where these liberty stickers came from, which people were putting on their pineal glands. Obviously, Maduro didn't print these, and they weren't imported, yet there are all these liberty flags and stickers, kind of like just after COVID, where magically there were unlimited supplies of plexiglass and floor stickers. One day we all woke up and went to the supermarket, and there were floor stickers in every single supermarket, an unlimited supply of plexiglass out of nowhere. People cheering in the streets means absolutely nothing, because we've been shown this same phenomenon after every single other invasion that's happened. Iraq, Afghanistan, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, for those of you that are super sleuths, and I'm sure the truth will come out about this, you will see that a bunch of this cheering looks fake, like it could have been AI generated. And I'm sure as we speak, people are running some of these videos through an AI tester. They have those now. But understand the technology that we see with artificial intelligence, with the mistakes that we found in AI footage, they have much, much more sophisticated technology, the controllers. So they just show us the weaker version of it. So you'll see things like extra fingers and things like this. Well, they have much more sophisticated technology. Now, I saw some major anomalies and inconsistencies in many of the videos that I looked at of supposedly people cheering in Venezuela, like perfect fingernail lengths, perfectly manicured hands. I also saw vehicles driving through seas of people, cheering people, and the vehicles are driving through it like a fish swimming through water. That's not real. Now understand that Maduro was no angel, but the country had already outlawed pornography. They were conservative and mostly Catholic, even though that's another construct. At least they were religious and devout. And they were aware of the Juice Club lie. Now, understand that the reason why Maduro was not pumping as much oil as we thought he should have been, right? Which, of course, made all the people in Venezuela poor, because if you can't use your natural resources, that's going to trickle down onto the people, right? The reason why they weren't pumping any oil, and the reason why there was a shadow fleet of tankers, was because we, the United States, put sanctions on Venezuela. We essentially began to starve their people out. This is exactly what we're doing to Iran. Again, I'm not trying to say Iran and Venezuela and Maduro are good people, are great leaders. What I'm saying is this is wagging the dog. We cornered these people, and we are starving their people with the sanctions. That's the point of it, to get the people to turn against their leaders. This is how it works. This is CIA 101. We've done it already a dozen times. All you have to do is look back through history. So, Casey, he's running illegal tankers on the high seas. He didn't have a choice. U.S. sanctions have significantly hindered Maduro's ability to sell oil through formal international markets by targeting the state-owned oil company PDVSA and related entities. We essentially shut off their oil. And then we pretend that they're doing shadowy things and starving their people when we're the ones doing it? Now, Trump also claims that Maduro stole elections. Well, the United States has a long history of creating candidates in other South American countries to run against people that we don't want in power. We already know this, you guys. It's happened before. We prop up a candidate in that country to run against the leader that we don't like. Now, let me give you an example. Imagine there was an American candidate running for president in our country, but everybody knew they were bought and paid for by Russia. Maybe, Russia had some blackmail on the candidate or whatever. They had some kind of control over this candidate and we all knew it. Wouldn't we as Americans want our government to render the election results invalid because of the outside influence? Of course we would. And this is exactly what Maduro did. He knew that the United States was seeding candidates to run against him. Wow. Now, Trump bragged about how no equipment or American lives were lost in the capture of Maduro. And I ask you this. If no sacrifice is required for war and aggression, if you're not losing anything by trying it, that sets up a very, very dangerous precedent. That means we can do whatever we want. Greenland, Canada, Cuba, Mexico, and the rest of Central and South America. Boy, our oligarchs are going to be rich, aren't they? They are going to be rich. Now, wrap your brain around this for a second. Venezuela has the same population as Ukraine. And yet, in 3 hours, we captured their president. So imagine in 3 hours, Russia went in and captured Zelensky. Yet, that didn't happen, obviously. What are we going on? 5 years of war? Something like that in Ukraine? So, war has different objectives, doesn't it? It can be human sacrifice, which is what Putin and Zelensky are doing. They're essentially waging an open air genocide to reduce the populations of both their countries at the same time. That's what's happening. But in our instance with Venezuela, Trump needs Venezuela to be stable in order to exploit the oil, right? So do you see how the different agendas dictate the tactic? Now, yesterday, Trump said in front of the world that, the Venezuelan vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, is completely and fully cooperating. And he made it sound like, this is going to be easy. She doesn't have a choice. But nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, the vice president escaped to Russia. Yes, she escaped to Russia. The plot thickens, doesn't it? This ain't over yet. And she blames Israel for making the attack possible. She demanded proof of life of Maduro and his wife. And she demanded his immediate release. So apparently, she has some backing to be able to say these things, right? While she's sitting in Russia. She wouldn't be so bold if she didn't have some promises from Russia. So this is not over yet. Trump made it sound so easy, but it is not over yet. Now, I started the show earlier today because I wanted to spend about 10 minutes on this. And then we'll get in. Now we're going to get into the Bugonia decode. So if you're just tuning in, the last 10 minutes we went over Venezuela. Now let me check in with you guys and get your thoughts, and we'll get into this Bugonia decode. But wow, right? The plot thickens. This ain't over yet. Now, I don't know what's going to happen, but this is interesting. Good morning, you guys. All right, let's get into this film, Bugonia. Now, thanks to all of you who kept prompting me to finally decode this film. It will be one for the record books as we begin to go through this. And this will definitely be one of the most revealing decodes that we've done in years. The disclosure is off the rails. There's a Casey character in the film. All kinds of madness. There's a flat earth depiction, a firmament depiction, all of it. And there's even several confirmations of concepts that originated right here on this channel. Now, the film released on a mirror calendar date, October 24th. I always look at these dates because they almost always have something crazy. October 24th is the 298th day of the year in leap years, with 68 remaining. So 98, 68, that's kind of a mirror date. And you're going to see why in a bit. The film is actually named after a flower that is pollinated by bees. And at the end of the film, you'll realize that the flowers represent people. That's a concept that we talked about here on the channel, that the fruit are the offspring of people, and that this was in the Bible, and that the flowers represent like the children. Let's watch.
And that's the way they planned it. To make us the same as the bees.
To make us the same as the bees. Now, I'll start to explain the plot to you in a second here, but this is insane.
A dead colony, atomized in a trillion directions, with no way home again.
Atomized in a trillion directions with no way home again. He's describing the exploitation of the bees. Now, there's a woman who plays the alien in the movie, and she is indistinguishable from humans. And she is the CEO of a large pharmaceutical company called Auxolith. Auxolith. Now, we already decoded the prefix AU, the first two letters of Auxolith. AU is gold on the periodic table, but AU is also Oz. OZ, AUZ, AUX. It's all the same. And remember, the land of Oz is the land of sleep. That's what we found in our decodes. And that's exactly what this movie is all about. The sleep masses and how one man figures it all out. And his name is Teddy. Teddy is the man you just heard speaking. Teddy plays the conspiracy theorist who actually nails every single conspiracy by the end of the movie. At first, he sounds crazy, but then by the end, you realize he's figured it out. Let's keep watching.
No, I'm sorry. Make it quick as you can. It's like GPS, remember? If its hair is still attached, it can track us remotely, so we want to go as quick as we can.
This is Teddy, and he figures everything out. He even renders the Hydra ship that the aliens fly in. And I'll show you that a little bit later in the decode. But in this scene, he's kidnapping the CEO to force her to bring him to her ship on the next lunar eclipse so that he can negotiate for the future of humanity. They capture her, they shave her head so she can't communicate with the mothership. And right there is your alopecia connection. Remember? Remember alopecia, all the videos we did on that? Now, Teddy's cousin, his name is Dawn. Interestingly enough, let's keep watching here.
Okay. Is it working?
Not much is coming out. Cutter.
Done! Do it harder, you won't cut her.
Okay.
So they're shaving her head. And Teddy's plan, his whole plan to kidnap the CEO, it stems from personal trauma. His mother sits in a coma. She's damaged by either a drug or a vaccine. And it's this CEO of Oxalith that is responsible. Let's keep watching. Now, I want to be clear here. Teddy uses violence to force the desired outcome. And he's shifting through different constructs, different belief systems, until he arrives at one, a final belief system in which he feels that the only way to change things is through violence. And he is depicted this way intentionally, I believe, by the makers of this film as a sort of psychological tactic to label people like us as dangerous. They're desperate and they know that we're getting close to the truth. So they want the general public to believe that all people like us who can see through their lies are prone to Teddy's personality profile. Now, I want to be clear because we are believers in Jesus Christ and his outcome to this mess that we're in. God says, vengeance is mine, not ours. We're supposed to follow Jesus' example of peace. Jesus taught no violence and to let him be the one to set things right. So, don't let them try to character assassinate you and label you with these labels. Now, they get the alien. Now, by this point in the movie, you don't know that this woman's an alien yet. I hadn't figured it out yet. I was like, there's no way. There's no way. But she ends up actually being an alien. And so Teddy is correct. But before she admits it, she uses every psychological tactic possible to convince Teddy at first that she's not an alien. Then she tries to threaten him. Then she uses empathy. Then she uses negotiation and finally submission. And it's really creepy how effective she is at trying to manipulate Teddy's mind, driving him to even more violence. Let's keep watching here.
Incredible.
What is?
Just the detail. The best I've seen.
So she's passed out. They injected her with something to put her to sleep, and they're examining her. And this is where it begins.
How can you tell she's an alien?
Well, the signs are obvious.
Now they lather this, I don't know if it's like a histamine cream onto her skin. They believe that this is going to block her ability to send signals to the mothership.
All of this very above board and civilized, so
Where's my hair?
your hair has been destroyed.
Now I'll be pausing this intermittently, and apologies for, the inconvenience of that, but this is what we have to do for copyright reasons. So here she is, head shaved with the histamine cream.
You shaved off my hair?
Yes, we've shaved off your hair.
Why have you shaved off my hair?
To prevent you from contacting your ship.
Now again, Teddy is very violent, and by the end of the movie, you see that he's killed many people and tortured many people to try to get the truth out of them. Again, reject that if that accusation is made towards you. We're simply trying to find the truth. We already know our politicians and corporations lie to us.
My ship.
Your ship.
Best guess of how the next 48 hours are likely to transpire. The police and soon thereafter the FBI will begin a statewide manhunt using
So here's our first tactic: threats.
all of the methods at their disposal and the combined resources of neighboring jurisdictions. My company is a...
So then she tries to convince him that she is very, very important and that they will find her. They're going to use digital surveillance to figure out where she's at.
key job creator and economic engine of the region. I am crucial. Think of it like you abducted the governor.
Integration of planet Earth, okay? And we need you to bring us to your mothership on the night of the lunar eclipse to broker a sit-down with your royal superior.
Now, what Teddy doesn't realize is that she is actually the emperor herself. She is the queen bee, but he doesn't realize that yet.
How's that? Fucking unpacked enough?
Now, this is just, I'm scrolling through. I had to screen record all this in one sitting to make it easier. This is me fast forwarding through the scenes here.
It knows you're watching right now, too. It's trying to gain your sympathy. That shitty way that you feel right now, that's how it wants you to feel.
So another psychological tactic that she uses. And we've seen this, right? The very term conspiracy theory was, or a theorist, conspiracy theorist, was a term that was created to make people like you and me seem irrelevant and borderline crazy and mentally ill, right? So this is what they do. These are part of their psychological tactics.
It's mastered the art of emotional manipulation.
But the messenger of this disclosure is coming from a person depicted as crazy. So therefore, this is the psychological operation. Now, at this point, Teddy sees visions of his mother's last day before her coma. And listen to what she says. This is a concept that originated on this channel, the Apollo Creed. Apollo's creed is that he creates the disease and he creates the cure.
Blood. You see what their plan is, okay? They sell me the sickness, then they sell me the cure, and
they sell me the sickness and then they sell me the cure. Wow. Now, we started talking about this right around the time of the pandemic when we saw the link between Apollo and Trump and his penthouse with Apollo all over it. And then we looked into Apollo and we saw that the ancient mythology was all about the disease and the cure, and that Apollo required a sacrifice called a hecatomb in order for you to receive the cure. That's when we realized that this was all true.
it's money on both sides from the mind control industry.
So she's describing the right-left paradigm. This is how they keep us trapped in ignorance, isn't it? Even with this whole Venezuela thing, it's unbelievable. The political ignorance people are trapped in. Right versus left. They just can't snap out of it. Chest beating on the right, praising Trump for what he did. The left, with actually the ones holding the truth at this point, but they don't always hold the truth about Venezuela. They give the truth to the wrong side so that it can lose. That's how it works.
Okay? Get it? But I'll do it for you.
So there she is, poked with all these needles. That's supposed to represent all of the drugs she's been given. She's essentially a human experiment. And the alien literally admits this, that they're experimenting on humans. They're doing genetic modifications. And then she floats in the air with the gases of death. Helium and methane, another concept that originated on this channel. The red balloons, the it clown, the occult gases of death. Wow. And yes, there is a Casey character in the film. And again, he's depicted as, they basically depict him as a PDF file. And he's a childhood friend of Teddy turned cop. And he realizes that something isn't right. But he meets his end when he discovers the plot. And once again, the Casey character is discredited and smeared like every other depiction of Casey we saw throughout these decodes. Obese PDF file cop. Now let's recap some of these Casey characters that we've seen throughout our decodes. Casey Connor in The Faculty. There was a Casey reporter in the RoboCop cartoon. We also covered Casey the talking robot. There was also a Casey in the film Split. There was a vigilante named Casey in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There was a Casey Newton in Tomorrowland. And when you start to break all this down, essentially, Casey always plays the whistleblower in these films, but he's always mocked and discredited, often depicted as a woman, or like the PDF file cop who's obese. Even Ranker has a top 25 fictional characters named Casey. This is unbelievable. I'll put links to all this for you guys. But understand, this is an attempt to discredit whatever it is that's going on here. I don't claim to know, but this is some weird Matrix stuff, you guys. Let's listen.
Catch up in a while, because, you know, all the shit, and, yeah. Just wanted to check up on you.
Casey, I'm good. What's up?
Nothing's up, man.
So he stops him, and obviously Teddy already has the woman in the basement, the woman alien, but Casey knows something's up, and he's trying to get down to the bottom. Let's keep watching here. Now, Teddy is fascinated with bees, and he studies them as a metaphor of how humanity has become so easily domesticated by the aliens. Again, this is something that originated early on this channel. We were looking at the comparison of the bees to humanity. We noticed that they were trapped in the hexagon hive matrix. And we compared that to like the movie The Matrix, which everyone was trapped in these pods. And that reminded us of the bees trapped in the hexagon honeycomb. We realized that money is really honey. That's why it's gold. And that bee smoke are essentially like the chemtrails that keep everyone asleep. Watch. Now at this point, Teddy renders the mothership before he's ever seen it. He's never seen it. And it looks like a Hydra. Let's take a look here.
How to identify them, okay? My own research. But I was the one who discovered how to identify them, okay? I created that content.
So this is mocking how we find things before they happen, but still the channel is small. Because the content that is relevant and real no longer matters anymore in this matrix. We now live in a reality where there's a formula to popularity, and the AI does the rest of it to suppress the core truths. It doesn't matter if every week you show something that hasn't happened yet. It still doesn't matter. This is how they control thought. And they're mocking us. And I wonder sometimes if this is what they mean by wearing out the saints in the Bible. Because how long can you do this and just keep reaching the same people and realize that no one is really listening outside of the core group? Most people would probably give up after about 6 months. We've been at this 13 years. Let's keep watching. Now, it's at this point that Teddy has another vision of his mother as a helium balloon. In case you had any questions, he's holding a string.
And safely. This could be a product that could help someone like your mom. Treatment in hopes that her condition.
You can't make this up. Wow. Pennywise, the it clown, he says you'll float too. Helium is death. Helium is mined out of the ground with methane, the gas of death.
Might one day improve.
Helium is also Helios, which is Apollo.
We will not tolerate the idea of you or your family bearing the financial burden of this. We are covering all of it.
And essentially what they're really doing is just using us as human experimentation. They're gaslighting us and telling us that, hey, we've got the cure. Now, it's at this point the alien finally concedes and admits the truth. She's trapped in the basement. She's cornered. She's cuffed to like a chair. And she realized she has no way out other than to concede the truth. And what you're going to hear next is her mixing truth with lies as she describes humanity as being reduced to apes after the flood. Now, the truth about all this is that the flood happened because the fallen ones mated with human women and God wiped them out. This is in the book of Genesis. But you also remember in the book of Jasher that the punishment for some of those trying to build the Tower of Babel, the ones at the top, the leadership, not the rest of everybody. The rest of everybody was scattered throughout the earth. But the book of Jasher says that those in the leadership positions that were actually building the tower, that they were turned into apes and monkeys. So she's partially correct in what you're going to hear next.
This one's on us. And again, we're just so sorry.
There they show a flat earth map, and you'll see the significance of that toward the end of this. Whoa, wait a minute. Whoa, where is that? That's like, is that like the North Pole? I didn't notice this before. Okay, let's keep watching here. Here's where she finally admits that she's an alien. After she convinces him to kill his own mother by giving her antifreeze.
This planet was ruled by dinosaurs. Magnificent creatures with a complex but stable ecosystem.
Now, interestingly, she's already freed herself, and he just accidentally killed his own mother with antifreeze because she told him the cure is in the antifreeze, so he does it. So she emotionally manipulates him, and he comes back. She could have escaped, but she decides to confront him. Let's keep watching here.
Oh. But we inadvertently spread a fatal virus to the planet.
The virus she's talking about is the seed of the serpent. Let's keep watching.
The Emperor was struck with guilt, watching all of his creatures perish. So he gave new life to this planet.
So she's mixing truth with lies. Let's keep watching.
Life resembling us. The early test humans could barely stand, but soon they walked.
So she's basically saying they created humanity, which we know that this isn't true. The Elohim created humanity. God created humanity.
Began to reproduce. Civilization was born in harmony with nature. Atlantis.
The theory of Atlantis. Now, I'm not saying there's zero truth to Atlantis, but there's some truth to it on some level. Likely the group of fallen angels, maybe the 200, who knows?
We were worshipped as gods. But some humans wished to surpass us. So they began creating their own new...
So, here are the other humans that began to create their own new...
lab-grown humans that were stronger, But the new humans were also more aggressive, so a conflict broke out.
So she's flipping the script here. She's basically calling the bad humans good and the good humans bad, okay? The real aggression came from the line of Cain, the seed of the serpent, versus the seed of the woman. The seed of the woman is Jesus Christ. The seed of the serpent is Cain.
That eventually resulted in a thermonuclear war. And in the war's wake, all of humanity was extinguished, save for a select few who built an ark.
So then she tells the flood story. So essentially, God wiped out the earth because the seed of the serpent mixed with the seed of the woman and spawned giants. God wiped out the earth with the flood.
And traveled the oceans for a century. When it was finally safe to resurface on dry land, the leaders of the ark died.
So a century, that's, remember, God says, my spirit will not contend with man for longer than 120 years. 40 plus 40 years. That's about a century, a little bit longer. So she's, again, mixing truth with lies.
Leaving behind only a few mutant specimens of degraded semi-humans, the apes.
So here's the Tower of Babel ape story. Because remember, it was after the flood that the Tower of Babel was built. And the people who built the Tower of Babel were turned into apes. The rest of them were scattered throughout the earth, as the book of Genesis says.
Evolution resumed, but toward chaos. The newly evolved human beings, your current ancestors, fought amongst themselves in an endless cycle of war.
All right. Wow. Let's keep listening. Now, next, the alien goes back to the mothership, where she and the tribunal decide that humanity is lost and they want to end humanity and start over.
Genocide, ecological destruction, they brutal.
Now, she goes through a portal, which is a closet. Lots of blasphemous things going on here. Remember, Jesus said, go into a closet to pray. That's where we actually are able to commune with the Most High, in a closet. Now, there's different renditions of the word closet, but essentially means a dark place. Okay? Close your eyes, that could be your closet. Or some people literally have a prayer closet that they go into. I can imagine it's like a portal. It opens up a dimension in our psychology to where we can actually commune with the Most High. And so by her going into a closet to commune with her fallen angels, that's blasphemy, right? So she emerges through this pool of water after she goes into a closet that's in her office, her CEO office at her company. And just before that, she blows. Well, I won't give the whole thing away because I don't want to spoil the whole thing. This is definitely a movie you want to watch because it literally breaks everything down for you. Okay. Now, she's in the mothership at this point. And what you're going to see next is crazy. Let me check in with you guys. What the heck? Right? What the heck? Okay, let's take a look here. Let's make sure we didn't get copyrighted or anything. Okay, we're good. All right. They decide humanity is lost. Look at it. It's like pink acrinodrome. That's a little bit weird, right? Human sacrifice. The experiments have failed. There are only 2 human subjects remaining. Basically, it's hopeless. They say the experiment's over and they need to make a decision. Now, interestingly, they depict this tribunal as maybe what some believe are the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, I don't know if I subscribe to that, but some believe that the 12 tribes were like the Polynesians, African Americans, or black people, and some people believe the Native Americans might have been one of the tribes of Israel. So if this is what they're depicting here, then that would be more blasphemy, right? Because these are the evil ones being depicted in this way. Wow, let's keep watching. This woman almost looks like maybe Norwegian, okay? So it's like basically the native tribes of every area of Earth. And here she is up in the mothership. Now, I don't know the significance of what they're wearing, but I'm sure if I were to dig and go down that rabbit hole, there would be something to see there as well. But watch what happens next after they've decided that humanity is over. We believe that it is over. They have had their time. And in their time, they have imperiled the life that they share, and so we have decided their time will end. So here's a wide shot of this mothership. They're all sitting around. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoa, 6 on each side. 66. Remember all of our studies on the first 6 generations of man on Cain's side and on Seth's side. There were 6 on each in each of the bloodlines, and the names were similar. There were 2 Enochs, 2 Jareds, 2 Methuselahs, 2 Methusaels, 2 Canaans. There were 6 on each side. Wow. Bingo. Let's keep watching here. Then they show the Earth, and they show a flat Earth with the ice ring around it and a firmament over top. And you have to wonder how accurate this all is. This is insane. Now, what could these represent? These chairs. The split something. It almost looks like horns or something, or like elk horns, or maybe, or a bone. Bones. I don't know. She walks over to the firmament and she pierces it. It's a reverse Tower of Babel ritual. Piercing the firmament from the outside instead of escaping from the inside. Look at the wand, even looks like a tower. Wow. Now the Bible describes bricks as making up the Tower of Babel, but you have to wonder if the Tower of Babel wasn't some kind of portal. And that the bricks were maybe symbolic of something else, maybe a technology that was built to open the portal. And remember I told you that the firmament was likely some kind of hexagonal matrix? Well, take a look. Another concept that we doubled down on this channel. Our first clue about this was in the Hunger Games movie. Remember when Katniss took her arrow and she shot it up into the dome? And I said, that's likely the shape of the firmament. It's a bunch of hexagonal honeycombs. But there was another clue. Remember, I told you that the firmament was likely a metaphor for the inside of the human eye. Let's take a look. This is really unbelievable. Diagram of the human eye. Images. Wow. Now this comes from the body code. Let's take a look here. Remember I told, well, that's kind of blurry. Let's take a look at this one here. Let's try this one. This one's good. Now, here is the human lens of the eye. And I told you that likely this is where we are standing on top of. And the pupil beneath us is hell. It's the pit. It's the darkness, the blackness. And over here, the aqueous humor is the lower waters. And up here above us are the upper waters. There's floaters in here, which are the heavenly bodies. Sun and moon are rotating up above here. We even showed you the ice ring surrounding the lens of the eye. And then we did cross sections, didn't we? We did cross sections of the lining of the firmament, because this outer part here becomes the firmament. You essentially have to take this whole thing and flip it on its side in order to get, let's see if we can do that here. Open image. Let's try to do this here. Let's do this the right way. Rotate. Let's see here. Oh, darn it. Let's see here. Let's try to flip this thing around here. Draw on page. Flip this. Okay. Now it should work. Let's refresh. Now this is important, you guys, because here we go. Rotate. There we go. Now you can see what's going on here. So we're standing here. This is why I tell you, the convex lens Earth, it's a tiered cake. Yes, it's flat, but it's also got mountains in the middle, and then everything kind of tears off to the sides. And the sun and moon are up here inside the vault. Well, the sun is some kind of a reflection off of the firmament, because the Bible says the stars are fixed in the firmament. So they're all around here. This is the firmament, okay? The pupil is below, that's the pit. There's a tree that goes up through the middle. It's called the hyaloid canal. There's literally a tree trunk that connects to the tree limbs, which is the retina. And that's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So there's a tree coming up right through the center, very close to the North Pole, which is probably why we don't have access to the North Pole. There were many trees in the garden that connected us to Earth, but those have since been cut off by the angels, according to the book of Enoch. Chapter 66, interestingly enough, talks about the angels laboring at the trees after the flood. They cut off the conduit, which didn't work anyway, because God had already set the swords, the angel swords, to guard the way to the garden. The garden's actually above us. What are the angel swords cutting off the way to the garden? The northern lights. They look like angels swinging their swords. This is why we can't get back to the garden. We're stuck in the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. There's one tree here in one eye. The other eye has the other tree. And let me show you that. Hyaloid canal eye. So here's the tree here. Here's probably a good image. The hyaloid canal. Remember, all this is inverted. Here's the tree trunk, and then the limbs are the retina. Here's a good image here. Literally, you're looking at the tree of the knowledge of good versus evil. It's the duality we're stuck in. This is why we can't figure anything out, because they just keep putting labels on it. Oh, it's red. Oh, it's blue. Now all the fruit is in the tree here, in these limbs. The figs, grapes, and pomegranates are in the lens. I'm sorry, in the limbs of the tree. What am I talking about? Well, the rods, cones, bipolar cells make up the lining, literally sitting in the limbs of the retina of your eye. Remember, all this is inverted. Let me show you what happens when you cross-section the rods and cones of the eye. In other words, let's go back to this image so you can get your bearings here. Here you can see the retinal wall. What happens when you cross-section this wall here? You see the firmament. Let me show you. Cross-section, rods, cones, eye. Now, Google has tried to hide a lot of this imagery. It's hard to find now, but in the body code series, we decoded all this. And I showed you, oh, here it is. Here's the image here. So here's the cross-section of the rods and cones of your eye. The wall, which is the firmament, literally is the hexagonal honeycomb matrix. Exactly what you see right here. And what you saw when Katniss shot her arrow up into the firmament. She was literally shooting the hyaloid canal, the hyaloid artery, the trunk of the tree into the firmament. Let's look that up. Katniss shoots arrow into dome. So they show us these little things. Here's the image here. This is the hyaloid canal. Literally, she's shooting the hyaloid artery up into the firmament, and there it is. And yes, it is a honeycomb matrix. So they're disclosing all of this stuff. Right? Here's a really good image of it. Here. Okay. So, Casey, what's going on with this? Where is the sun and the moon? Well, it's in here. There's actually literally floaters inside this liquid here, floating around. And they look like heavenly bodies. I think what I believe is everything except the stars, because remember, the stars are fixed in the firmament, according to Genesis. Everything except the stars are floating right up here above us. The planets are wandering stars. So, according to the book of Enoch, the planets are the wandering stars. So they're stars that fell out of the firmament. The fallen ones worship these fallen stars. And the book of Enoch tells us that the stars represent the righteous and the angels. So they're like almost like a representation of us in the sky. It's not us in the sky. It's a representation of us, like a beacon. And so imagine if you're not righteous and you're a dark one, that would be like a black hole or a wandering star. Okay. So that's what that is. So essentially, your human eye is a model of what's going on right here on Earth. Okay, so you've lost your mind. You're crazy. Well, beneath our feet, okay, remember, the lens is where we're standing. And when you look all around the Earth, and this should be the proof for those of you that are still on the fence. When you look all around the Earth, there is a particular phenomenon. Ready for this? Column basalt. And here's the proof of what we're standing on. Perfect hexagonal packed columns. Yes, 6-sided columns, perfectly packed. Well, what does that have to do with the lens of the eye, Casey? Well, keep watching. Cross-section of the human eye lens is the same hexagonal packed matrix. Literally, we're standing on the column basalt foundations of Earth, which matches what's in the lens of the human eye. Let me try to find the image here. Again, Google tries to hide this stuff. So you got to kind of search for it a little bit. Here you can kind of see it. That's a human lens of the eye. When you cut a cross section, when you cut through it, it has the same hexagonal matrix, the honeycomb. So we are literally trapped in the hive. Above and below is the honeycomb matrix. Here it is. I'm having to re-find all this stuff because they're hiding it. Let's see. Doing a little live research with you guys. Let's try a different image because it's not giving us what we want right away. But we had already found all this. Cross-sectioned and magnified. Maybe I need to type that in. I want to show you this before we move on and finish this decode up. So, disclosure off the rails, but they're mocking and gaslighting people who find the disclosure, right? Because they don't want you to know the truth. Because if you knew the truth, then you'd have to believe in the Bible, right? I mean, I guess this kind of shows it. Open image. Let's try to take a look at this. Oh, here we go. There you go. There's the cross section. There you see the hexagonal matrix. Cortical fibers, they're called. I'll put links to all this. This is the body code. God essentially created the world as a mirror of the human body so that we would know who the Most High is, who created us. It's a circle. Now let's finish this up here. I really can't even believe this. She pierces the firmament. This is what they're trying to do from the inside. They're shooting rockets up. They're trying to create portals. They're trying to create another Tower of Babel to get out because they're all trapped here. They rule over all of us. Let's keep watching. She pops the firmament, and then we see the closing credits. Every human on earth dies. And the song says, "Where have all the flowers gone?" Basically describing the children of earth as flowers.
Long time passing, the flowers gone. Where have all the flowers gone?
Now, I'm sure if I looked up the song, "Where Have All the Flowers Gone?" there will be more revelation. These people, every single detail is accounted for. I should probably look it up, right? Where have all the flowers gone? So it's probably a song. All right, folk song, that's got to be it. Pete Seeger from 1955. Let's see. March 14th. That date rings a bell. Let's look it up. Let's see what day of the year that is. There's something to that date. I can't place it right now. But it first released in 1955. Now, I had another epiphany about all this, and that's pretty much the end of the decode, but I had an epiphany about the words alien and angel. Let's type it out. Alien and angel. And if you look at those two words, they're only separated by 2 letters. There are only 2 letters that are different in the words alien and angel are I and G. Internet versus God. Yes, the artificial intelligence is the manifestation of the devil himself. He is the alien. Wrap your brain around that. Wow. Now, let's finish up with some body code. Because God is amazing, isn't he? We live in a nested reality where everything is something inside of something else. And the human eye is also a metaphor for birth and reproduction. This is why I believe that the Bible says when Eve's eyes were opened and she could see, that this had to have had something to do with reproduction, because your eye also is a portal. The womb is a portal. What am I talking about? Well, are you ready for this? The vitreous humor of the eye is a metaphor for the amniotic fluid in the womb. In fact, there is a substance inside of this watery place that only appears in the human body in two places: the inner eye and the amniotic fluid. Let's look it up. This is what connects the two together. It's called Wharton's jelly, and it only appears in the womb of the umbilical cord and the inner eye inside of your eye. The only two places in the human body. The two are connected, aren't they? The two are connected. Now, I'll put a link to that as well. So imagine a child in the womb here, a child in the eye. Your iris becomes the cervix that opens and closes, right? The iris opens and closes to allow light in. The cervix opens and closes to allow the child to be born into the world. The child is crowned, except they're born into sin instead of life, according to the Bible. And notice how all this is inverted. Now that we're looking at this again, there are more epiphanies. When the child is crowned, it's the opposite of the crown of the tree, which is behind it. Watch this. Remember the hyaloid canal and the retina? The crown of the tree is here. Let's go back here. Let's find it. This is really unbelievable. The crown of the tree is back here, opposite the crowning of the child coming through the iris. So everything's inverted. Now, child is born, okay, into the open eye. Now, what else? Well, the retina provides life-giving blood to the eye. And that's just like the placenta. And remember, the placenta looks like a tree. So we have another metaphor. Placenta, tree. Now, some of you are hearing this for the first time. Okay. And you're blown away. Others of you already know the body code, which is why you keep coming back to this channel, because this was a supernatural revelation, wasn't it? So what you're looking at is the placenta, but it's also a tree, which is also the retina of the eye. Now let's keep going. That sits up here. The Bible describes the fruit of the womb, it says, which is offspring. And so that makes sense too. The child is sitting in the tree. It's the fruit of the womb, the fruit of the eye. Rods, cones, bipolar cells, and ganglia are the three structures that line this eye. Now, what else is going on in here? Well, we forgot the most important part, the umbilical cord. That becomes the trunk of the tree, the hyaloid canal, and that's where we get the Wharton's jelly that matches the inner eye and the umbilical blood vessels, and the eye. Both are the only two places. Wow. What if they remove that? Vitreous. Wow, they removed it. Let's look it up. Wharton's jelly. Is it the vitreous humor? No, it's the, yes, like hyaloid canal. And umbilical cord. Stem cells in there as well, interestingly. Umbilical arteries and vein. Wow. The truth is slipping away, isn't it? Now, let's keep watching. So, you've got the umbilical cord attached to the child inside the vitreous humor of the eye. Child's born into sin. Eve looked out, and we're born into sin. There's more to this. This artery here, this is the retinal vein, okay? The optic nerve sits at an angle that matches the angle that we're told the earth is sitting tilted at. And in a previous video, we actually measured that, and it sits at the exact same angle. Another clue. What other clue do we have? Well, how do we get to Jesus? Well, we have to go through the cross, right? Ready for this? We're following the pathway of light to find the truth. Light comes in through the eyes, comes in through the eye here. Everything's upside down. Our brain has to reverse it for us to see right side up. Well, let's take a look. How do we get to Jesus? We have to go through the cross. Let's just take a simple image here. And that's exactly what your optic nerves do. Remember, these are the trees of the knowledge of good and evil. We're trapped here. We have to go through the cross, the optic chiasm. The pineal gland sits right in here. What you're looking at is the crucifixion. Now, they describe this optic chiasm with letters A, B, B, A. Which is Abba, which means Father. A mirrored symmetrical structure where literary elements are presented in inverted order, creating a cross-like X pattern. Abba, Father. Jesus said, "Take this cup from me." Well, here's a cup up here. When you turn the cup over, after it crosses through the crucifixion, Jesus handed it back over to the Most High. "Take this cup from me." He inverted the cup. Well, what's back here after you cross through the middle? Ready for this? The tree of life. The back of the brain. And this is where the optic nerves terminate. We go back to the tree of life. Well, I hope you enjoyed the body code. There's much more to it, but those are the cliff notes. For those of you that are new to the channel, there is a body code documentary that I put together. It's about 3 hours long. If you want to check that out to get all the details, there's much, much more to it. But those are the cliff notes. All right, you guys. Now, don't get it twisted. Jesus was real. The only thing he asked for us to do was to believe in him, to believe that he died, was crucified for our sins. There's something to that he asks us to believe. There's something to that. So never, ever think that all of this was just metaphor for our body or something, or that none of that was real and it was just a construct of the body. No, the very purpose of imprinting all of this truth on our body was so that we would believe even more deeply and fully. Okay? I don't want you to get it twisted, because there are a lot of people out there talking about Christ consciousness and this and that. No, that's the wrong road. You don't have power in yourself. You are powered by Christ. He's the one powering you. And when you cut him off or don't believe in him, that's the beginning of death. So don't believe the new age people out there telling you that you are Jesus. You are not Jesus. Many will come in his name, he said. So, yes, X is the symbol that Satan has hijacked to make it bad. But now I just showed you the true origins of the cross. The true origins of the cross was Jesus' sacrifice imprinted on our human tissue. Pretty amazing, right? Yes, we are the apple of God's eye. You ready for this? Whoa. So where's this apple? Well, if you were to look at a 3D image of what I just showed you, it would look something like this. This is the apple. We are the center of it all. So look at this image here and compare this to the inner eye anatomy that I just showed you. Okay. So here are the lenses. This is the tree trunk, the hyaloid canal going up to the retina, which forms a tree. We are in the apple of the eye. We are the center of it. We are in the trunk of this tree, which, interestingly enough, if you didn't know this, tree trunks twist as they grow. They look like an umbilical cord. Wow. It's a magnetic field. All right, I got so many tabs open. Or do you guys have any questions about all this before I pop off here? I know I threw a lot at you today. Yes, laminin is the glue that holds everything together. Do you guys have any questions? Yes. Yahushua, Jesus is Messiah and the only mediator between us and Yah. Absolutely 100%. And Jesus is beyond language. Okay? He's beyond it. I believe there was no language originally. Why do you think God confused the languages? I believe all of those are constructs of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In fact, the book of Enoch says that there were fallen angels that created writing. Penuel, I think his name was one of the fallen 200 who created writing, which is where the word pen came from. Penuel. So, us fighting about the name of Jesus is another right-left construct to continue to divide the body of Christ. God sees past language. He knows your heart. He knows who you're praying to. So for the last 1,000 years that people prayed to Jesus, even if they got it wrong, God knew who they were praying to. This is all about intent. So if you find yourself fighting with someone or saying you're not true or you're not real, now, yes, there is such a thing as a false church that is worshiping the wrong Jesus for other reasons, but it's not because they're saying his name wrong. It's for other reasons. They're idolatry and they're worshiping Trump and they're, doing all these things. That's why they're praying to the wrong God. It's not because they're saying his name wrong. In other words, there's no wrong way to say it if Jesus knows your heart. In fact, the Bible has like 40 plus names that you can use to call on Jesus. Redeemer, Savior, there's 30 something other names that you can actually call him and legitimately be legitimate. In fact, Jesus' name is said differently in different languages, which sound like Yahushua. Yahushua is a variation of Joshua, which some languages use as the name of Jesus. They don't say Jesus, they say Joshua. So all of us fighting over this stuff, that's a construct of the devil. He's trying to divide us with confusion and division. So do not be divided on these things. Don't go to someone and say, you're saying it wrong. You're worshiping even the word Jesus, Jesus, is a variation of Joshua. It's just in a different language. And yes, it can mean Apollo. But understand, God is not condemning the people that used the name Jesus over the last 1,000 years. There were some very faithful people that used the word Jesus. So don't get it twisted. That's division and fighting. We already have enough division as it is. And yes, there are true believers and non-true believers, but it's not based on how you say his name. It's based on human idolatry and materialism. Most Christians now, if their stock market is doing good, then they believe in Trump. That's all they care about. Oh, the stocks are up. That's all we care about. Who cares if he was a PDF file? You see the problem? That's called idolatry and materialism. So, yes, God isn't confused. He knows who we are calling to. He knows. You could wake up every day and say, my Redeemer, and he would know. And someone would say, why aren't you using his name? Well, because the Redeemer is allowed. It's capitalized in the New Testament. One of dozens of other names you can call Jesus. And it's completely legitimate. So, all right. Okay, you guys, a lot of information. I love each and every one of you. I'll be back tomorrow. I think we're going to continue on with the Mold Apocalypse series. And so I will see you guys tomorrow. Much love. Long show today. Have a great rest of your day, you guys.